Performance Multiplier, powered by Liquid IV. Fuel your play. I'm Chris Hassel. Just one preseason game left for most teams, including the Vikings. They finish up in Denver on Saturday before getting their season started with a huge game. They start with the favorite Green Bay Packers in the NFC North, but many think the Vikings could push them this season. Kirk Cousins has not yet played in the preseason. A COVID positive forced him out of preseason game one. He rejoined the team last week for joint practices against the 49ers, but did not play. Cousins expected to lead an explosive offense with Dalvin Cook and Justin Jefferson, with offensive-minded Kevin O'Connell as their new head coach. Let's go out to Minnesota, where we find Bryant, McFadden, and Pete Prisco at Vikings camp. Fellas, what are the keys to success under new head coach Kevin O'Connell? B-Mac, you can take it away first.
Well, looking at what they were not able to do a year ago, finishing the drill. You look at the Vikings season last year, they were in so many ball games, but they lost them in the end of the ball game, late in the fourth quarter, by one possession. So, number one, finding a way to take care of the business within 4 quarters. You can't just play an NFL game for 3 quarters and expect to win. You got to play for a full 4 quarters. So, being able to finish the drill, stay healthy, and just be efficient on both sides of the football, especially on the offensive end. And that's why so many people are high on the Minnesota Vikings, Pete, this year, because of Kevin O'Connell. When they brought him in, many people felt like instantly we will see a different Kirk Cousins. We will see a different Justin Jefferson, Dalvin Cook, and the who's of who in this offense. So we all believe, based on what he's been able to do as a coach in the National Football League, in the National Football League, that he would be able to take some of the things he's done and he's been around in Los Angeles and be able to do the same things here in Minnesota.
See, I think the offense was fine last year, and the offense will be good again. We know that. And Kevin O'Connell's an offensive guy. The strange thing about the Vikings the last couple of years is Mike Zimmer was a defensive coach, and the defense was bad. They gave up 4.7 per rush last year. You can't do that in the National Football League and try to win games. You have to stop the run. They're changing their defense. They're going to a 3-4. They brought in some new faces, Darius Smith being one of them. Harrison Phillips will play the nose. I think they'll be better against the run this year. But if you don't stop the run, you can't turn your pass rushers loose. That means Daniil Hunter and Zadarius Smith. So first and foremost, they will and have to be better stopping the run.
Let's get to some futures and some season-long player props. Kirk Cousins is where we start. 30.5 touchdown passes is where it's set. Over the last 2 seasons, Pete, he's averaged more than that, 34 a year over the last 2. Now, an offensive-minded head coach.
And he will get over that number. He's going to put up big numbers in this offense. Again, it's an offense that caters to the quarterback. They make it easy on him. He's got great weapons. You have to stop the run. One of the things is snaps. If you don't stop the run and get a team off the field, you're not going to get as many snaps. So I think they're going to get more snaps this year on offense, and he's going to put up big numbers. He's going over that.
I'm right there with you. I think we're going to see Kirk Cousins become a more efficient quarterback, more accurate, and more precise, especially in the red area. Just being able to learn and be a part of a new offense that's more entertaining, more updated than what we've seen in years past. And then secondly, let's keep it real. If this offense is healthy and Kirk Cousins is smart with the football, they're going to put up numbers. Justin Jefferson, one of the best wide receivers in the game. Adam Thielen, one of the best number 2s in the game, depending on who you're asking. You look at Irv Smith Jr., if he's healthy. KJ Osborne, and then Dalvin Cook. Think about that. The last name that I mentioned was Dalvin Cook. So me personally, the cupboard is not bare there here in Minnesota. And because of all of that, I'm right there with Pete. I go over 30 touchdowns.
And you guys have talked about the creativity under the new offensive-minded regime and Justin Jefferson lining him up in the backfield to get him more one-on-ones. We might see more of that during the season. We've seen it in scrimmages against teams, in squad practices. Let's go with a Jefferson to lead the league in receiving yards at plus 800. Now, nobody has shorter odds than that. He's a co-favorite, and he was second in the league last year, Pete, but he was a full 300 plus behind Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, and I think he's going to do it this year. I predicted he would do it last year. I was wrong. He came close, and he was right there, but I think he does it this year. He is on the verge of being the best receiver in the National Football League. Not quite there yet, but he's on the verge of doing it. By the end of this year, he might be. So I'm going to take the odds and say, yes, at plus 800, I will take Justin Jefferson.
I agree with you. An extraordinary talented guy. I mean, when you look at the way he runs routes, the way he creates separation at the top of the route and at the end of the route, it's a thing of beauty. He's a natural route runner. He was born to run routes. And then when you factor in how they're going to utilize him in this offense, if he is playing the Cooper Cup for Minnesota this season, oh my goodness, he's going to be a big-time impactful player. The skill set, the attributes, everything that he has, we've seen he can dominate, but now being a part of a more prolific offense, yes, over for me. I think he's going, and you said something earlier that he's on the cusp of being the best wide receiver. I think he's there. I think he's right there. I think he's really right there when you talk about some of the best pass catchers in the National Football League.
But you're talking about a guy who won the Triple Crown last year. I mean, in Cooper Cup, he won the Triple Crown. If Justin Jefferson wins the Triple Crown, then he'll be the best receiver in the league.
But if you look at the last 2 years, right? Just the 2 years. I understand Cooper Cup had a phenomenal year a year ago. But if you look at the last 2 seasons, name me a wide receiver that has been better than Justin Jefferson.
Well, Cooper Cup.
Okay, there you go. But you don't believe that's going to be the case this season. You like Jefferson to lead the league in receiving yards. You guys are bullish on Vikings players. Pete, even bullish on Kirk Cousins. How about the team as a whole, Pete? The over-under win total is set at 9. They won 8 last season.
Yeah, I think they're going to get over that number. I do. I think the division, when you look at the bottom 2 teams, they're teams trying to build to something. So those aren't necessarily tough games, although the Lions will be better this year. And I do think that they're going to be better on defense. If you can't stop teams on defense, it doesn't matter how good your offense is. They're going to change the way they play on defense. They got better players up front. I think when you look at Danielle Hunter, he has to stay healthy, but when he's healthy, he's a good pass rusher. So I'm going to go over that total. I don't think they're going to get much over it, but they're going to get over it.
I don't like agreeing with Pete Prisco a lot, but I have no other
right
choice. I have no other choice. I'm right there with you. This is a team that won 8 games last year. And think about this. They were still in the playoff conversation towards the end of the season, but they were just bad when it came to finishing ball games. So now you look at this team, a much improved roster, a new coaching regime. Everything that has been in place has looked to be better than what we've seen last year. And you talk about 9 wins. Remember, it's 17 games this season. It's 17 games, no longer 16 games anymore. It's 17, so that's a plus as well. You talked about the division. It's basically 2 teams in the NFC North right now. That's the Packers and the Vikings. This is one of the best props regarding the Minnesota Vikings. Take the season total over.
We have to get our graphics people to come up with the graphics with an asterisk. His cousin is Patrick Peterson every time you talk about the Vikings.
That has nothing to do when it comes to winning money. My job is to make sure I give the best advice for all of our viewers.
Can we get them to make that every time he talks about the Vikings all year long? His cousin is Patrick Peterson.
But unfortunately, I agree with you. And you still want to give me slack for agreeing with you.
Because I heard you before talking about how they're going to win the division.
I believe that.
Okay.
That's not fair.
Asterisk. Your cousin is Patrick Peterson.
I mean, you could argue that that's a bold prediction, that the Vikings are going to unseat the Packers in the division. Pete, you love making bold predictions.
No, that's not bold, Chris.
Vikings.
That's not bold.
My bold prediction is truly bold for me. And I want to preface it by saying it's bold, which means you have to be bold. It doesn't necessarily mean I believe it. Kirk Cousins will lead the league in touchdown passes.
What do you mean you don't believe it? You're going to make a prediction that you don't think is going to happen?
It's bold. They want to be
Chris,
bold.
What you mean you don't believe? How you make a bold prediction you don't believe that can actually happen?
It's a bold
But you
prediction.
don't believe it can happen?
It's possible, but I don't think it will. But it's possible. That's why a bold prediction. If you're asking me to make a prediction, he'll throw 38. How about that? Is that good for a prediction? And he might lead the league.
I don't like his bold prediction at all. Can you come to me?
B-Mac, give us a real bold prediction. Like one that you actually believe.
Thank you, Chris. This is bold, and I believe this could happen. The Minnesota Vikings will make it to the NFC title game this year. And the reason why it's bold is because when you talk about NFC teams with championship aspirations, you start with the Rams, you got the Buccaneers, you got the Green Bay Packers. I mean, you got 5 teams before you get to Minnesota. Because most people don't believe, like Pete Prisco, the Vikings can win the division. So me personally, my bold prediction for the Minnesota Vikings in 2022, they will make it to the NFC title game. Print the T-shirts.
Okay, B-Mac makes bold predictions that he believes. Pete says basically bold predictions are like predictions that, I'm just doing it for fun, for TV purposes, to make our producers happy. Let's go to week 1. B-Mac, if you like them to win the division, to go to the NFC Championship game, I got to imagine you like that you're getting points at home against the Packers week 1.
Well, the most attractive bet in regards to week 1 for me is the total. I'm taking the under, and here's why. 2 divisional teams that know each other extremely well, 2 defenses that have improved dramatically. I don't expect to see an explosion of points from either side. So when you talk about divisional matchups, 2 playoff caliber teams with good defenses, good coaching staffs, I take the under when it comes to week 1.
I like the under in that game, but here's a number that kind of deters me a little bit. In the last 4 games against the Minnesota Vikings, Aaron Rodgers has 13 touchdown passes and no picks. None. Not a one. He owns the Vikings in terms of what he does offensively. I'm taking the Packers minus the points, and they'll win the division.
Another good juicy bet, too, as well. Just take Vikings money line. Don't even take the points.
They're not winning the game. You can have all you want. Green Bay wins the game outright by a touchdown.
You just said, what, really?
I picked the Packers.
Okay, we're going to have a side bet.
Pete, stop
me and you.
confusing everybody. Just give us straightforward facts like BMAC does, all right? Pete Prisco, Bryant, McFadden out there with the Vikings today. They're going to have practice late this afternoon, early evening in Minnesota. As our training camp tour continues on HQ, and we'll be with the Vikings once again tomorrow as our training camp tour continues. And then on Wednesday, going to be with several teams. Eagles and Dolphins having a joint practice. We'll be with both of those teams and the Saints as well.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.